So hello there. Today we're going to be trying to answer the question, is Shire life compatible with technological advancement? So the 22nd of September is Frodo and Bilbo Baggins' birthday, and it's also World Hobbit Day. Just by coincidence, I think. So the hobbits have a peaceful and pleasant life in the Shire, and this got me thinking, is Shire life compatible with technological advancement? What do I mean by that? As Lord of the Rings is set in a time comparable with medieval Europe, so any piece of tech would be primitive by today's standards at best. Well, technology and innovation did happen in Middle-earth, but hobbits were not so well known for their machinery, preferring to use traditional devices for their farming and other jobs. So today, we will be looking at whether Shire life is compatible with technological advancement, and we'll be doing this by looking at what life in the Shire was like. We'll be comparing Hobbit tech to the other races, and looking at J.R.R. Tolkien's views on tech. And this is just because he created the idyllic Shire life, so he could influence whether technology would be accepted there or not. Tech in the Shire. So before Saruman, the Shire had little tech, so probably the most advanced machines was probably the Bywater mill. So there's no mentions of blacksmiths or metal workers, but instead postmasters, innkeepers and farmers, which are much more nature-based and people-based work than the machines and industrial jobs. So potentially there were a few forges and smithing stations, which just been used for things like pony shoes and farm equipment, but nothing fancy as the hobbits weren't looking to innovate, and as there were few of these jobs available, it would be harder for a hobbit to learn these skills and then pass it on to future generations. So at Bilbo Baggins' final birthday party, he bought many gadgets from dwarves. So this suggests that there weren't any local hobbit suppliers, suggesting that hobbits aren't known for their work with their hands for making devices and tech. So things did, however, begin to change when Saruman arrived. The Bywater mill was replaced with a bigger, more efficient mill, making way for a industrial revolution of sorts. However, this was rejected by the hobbits, and after the scarring of the Shire, these big industrial infrastructures were torn down, returning to their less advanced, more traditional way of doing things. So tech in other regions. So to see if Shire life is incompatible with the technological advancements, we must compare it to the other regions of Middle-earth. So the elves are probably most like the hobbits, living in their forests and tending to the earth. So historically, the elves were master smiths, with Fiona crafting the Silmarils and Celebrimbor forging the Rings of Power. However, all this was done in the First and Second Age. Advancements of the elves seems to stagnate. It is possibly due to their immortality, lack of their young, and being set in their ways that have served them throughout the ages. So this has all led to no new ideas from the elves or innovation, resulting in the elves not really advancing technologically. So when thinking of great blacksmiths and metalworkers, the dwarves spring to mind. Dwarves crafted armour like mithril, and were known to have skills with mechanisms, crafting many gifts for Bilbo's party for examples. But like the elves, there was no prominent dwarven advancement during the Third Age, and this is evidenced by Gloin at the Council of Elrond saying, "The dwarves of Erebor have surpassed their predecessors in mining and building before Smaug descended on the lonely mountain, but not in metalwork, smithing, or the making of mail, as their predecessors' secrets have been long lost." So this only leaves us with the orcs and the goblins. So these are described as having great skill in smithing and mining, like the dwarves, but this quote is said of the orcs. Orcs made no works of beauty, but created many clever things. And Tolkien wrote in The Hobbit, it is not unlikely that they, being goblins, invented some of the machines that have since troubled the world, especially the ingenious devices for killing large numbers of people at once. For wheels and engines, explosions always delighted them. So the only race to be described as creating machinery is the goblins, and that's only for the purpose to inflict misery on others. So all the other races seem to be content with the current methods and not needing the efficiency that advancements can bring. Shire life. So the Shire was based off the English countryside, being described as cool but not overly cold at winter with little snow and freezing of water bodies. Rain was frequent and summers tended to be fairly warm in the Shire, mimicking England, which does rain a lot here. So computer models from the University of Bristol estimated that the average temperature of Hobbiton was 7 degrees Celsius, which is similar to the UK pre-industrial revolution. So the Shire and the surrounding areas had an abundance of natural resources like wood and farmland, which would allow cereals, fruit, and most importantly for a hobbit, pipeweed could be farmed without too much difficulty. So as the hobbits were protected from outside dangers by the rangers, and their land could supply all they need, life in the Shire was comfortable, eliminating the need for technology to improve efficiency, as the traditional way of life was, well, it worked, and it was enjoyed by the hobbits. So the Shire was inspired by where Tolkien grew up, and Tolkien saw the effects of rapid industrial and technological advancements in England. So I can't find any specific quotes from Tolkien supporting or condemning tech, but he has said in his letters that dissatisfaction of ordinary life has led to technological impulse. So hobbit life would not appear to lack anything, as there's plenty of food and pipeweed and a strong community where most people know each other, so there isn't really a need to innovate and make faster, more efficient machines, as the hobbits know peace. So just a quick look at the IRL application. It is important to note that world building in Middle-earth doesn't really ever delve into machinery or engineering feats, but rather history and art and language reflecting Tolkien's own interests. So a lot of technological advancements have come about from necessity or to improve an area of life. So if humans had all we needed and were satisfied with the way things were, then a lot of advancements we've had may not have occurred, as there would have been no need or desire for them. So all the races in Middle-earth, except for those corrupted by evil, seem to be happy with the traditional way of life, like farming the land manually, using small mills instead of large machines. So being happy with the way of life and not needing to improve yields and results of harvests would lead to no real need for innovation, which would ultimately lead to very little technological advancement. So because of this, I think Shire life is compatible with technological advancement, but there would be no need for it. And if we were to live and grow up in the Shire, having plenty to eat and drink, plenty of green spaces and forests to explore, then we also would be satisfied and not need the latest gadgets and gizmos, but rather second breakfasts. That's my take, but let me know yours. Would you be satisfied in the Shire, or are any pieces of tech that are too luxurious to live without? I, for one, couldn't do without the whiteboard. It's quite remarkable. I'm sorry. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again at some point.